maybe we'll just give it a couple more minutes just to let some people join in, if that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay with me. I actually feel more comfortable in small group environments.
Yeah.
And so maybe I didn't spice up social presence enough. If it's not spicy, maybe it doesn't seem important.
I like the poster, the flyer you sent.
Oh, Matt created that.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, you know, I kind of wanted to do something a little special, you know, and so I put it together, thinking that, you know, I would kind of advertise or market, you know, e-learning month like that. So I used that Canva. I'd never used that before, so
Yeah.
it was so easy to use, you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've studied a lot of design things, but it's helpful to get some direction. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and get started since it's 2 after, and we'll just wait. I think some more people will probably come in.
No worries. If you're recording it, you know, we can post it somewhere.
Sure.
It's pretty chilled out information that people could look over at their own time. And then afterwards, I'll make sure I send you like a PDF of the PowerPoint. Cool? Yeah,
that sounds great. I'll just go ahead and introduce you. You know, I just want to thank Dr. Alicia Johnson for doing this today, and she's been very helpful with coordinating, you know, assistance from Virginia Tech with regards to our e-learning program here at UGHE, you know, helping with some, you know, different activities. But today she is presenting on social presence, which I think is a really interesting topic related to e-learning. Dr. Johnson has been designing and teaching post-secondary courses for the past 8 years. She holds a BA in English, an MS in instructional technology, and a PhD in curriculum design with an emphasis on instructional design and technology. She is beginning her 4th year as a visiting assistant professor in the Instructional Design and Technology Department in the School of Education at Virginia Tech. So we really thank you a lot for doing this today. And I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks for having me. Let's see, I'll go ahead and see what I can do with this sharing. All right. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. It's really great. It's great to be here. And I love working with Matt. And of course, we love being able to discuss with colleagues any topic involved with learning or online learning. And so I wanted to talk about cultivating social presence because it seems like an obvious topic, but unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't show up in online courses. So I wanted to share this idea with everybody today. So really, we're just going to talk a little bit about what is social presence, why it's important, mostly what we can do to cultivate it, and then kind of how to get started with it. I've incorporated a few slides. I don't know if anyone's ever used Mentimeter. But it's a way to participate in an online presentation Let me see if I can get this in this slideshow. It's a way to participate in the online presentation without having to go through the chat or anything. If you want to participate in it, I put the link to it in the chat section of our presentation. If you want to participate with your phone, I put a QR code up in the right-hand corner. So if you're going to participate using the link in the chat or your phone, could you take a moment and answer the question? Have you ever heard of the construct of social presence? I just want to make sure everything's going. So, right. I want to share this on my slide. You have to forgive me. It's the first time I tried to incorporate it this way. But what we have right here is that one person responded and they have not heard of social presence before. So thank you very much. It hopefully will sound extremely familiar in that it's similar to what we do in our face-to-face classes. You just have to actually purposely go after social presence when you're teaching online, whereas it becomes quite natural in a face-to-face environment. So sorry, I'm having trouble. There you go. So the definition I had a hard time with, okay? It's because it's been researched for quite some time. It started, I think, like late 60s, and they were just looking at that feeling of presence in telecommunications. And it's kind of morphed into this larger area of study because of online learning and computer-mediated interactions. But I really liked this definition, and it's quite recent. So it's the degree to which a person is perceived as a real person in a technologically mediated environment. And you notice this picture right here. I've got it, so it's a little bit dark surrounding the student in online environment and even in a face-to-face environment while they're at home doing their schoolwork. For online courses, there's a certain degree of loneliness and isolation that students feel. And there's a couple of decades of research that shows those feelings affect a student's self-efficacy, affect their persistence. Many drop out when they start feeling that way. They don't feel a part of a community, and of course that affects their learning. And so it's important for us to be real, for the faculty to be real to the student. If you think about social cognitive theory, where it's believed that we model our behavior in social environments and people learn from us, it's important for modeling that the learner must relate to the person modeling the behavior or teaching. They must be able to relate to them somehow. So it's really important for us to be real, and we have to purposefully do it in an online environment. So if you've ever taken a distance or online learning course, maybe use one or two words to describe your experience. If you want to participate.
And if I can help out, just to, again, all you have to do is click on that link in the chat to participate, if you didn't know that.
Oh, thanks. Now I have to make it active. So some considered it fun, some considered it interesting, and I guess that would be a really good that would be a really great takeaway, that students would consider it enjoyable and that they would show some interest. If students are engaged in the course, they're likely to be interested in it, and that interest could enhance their motivation, and they could stick with the course. If you take a look at research on why people drop out of courses or don't do well in courses, it's got very little to do with the subject matter. It has to do with the course design and how the students feel when they're in that course. So why it's important is because social presence can enhance learner engagement, learner satisfaction, persistence, and learning outcomes. And all of these have an effect on student learning. I decided to just go with this social presence model as a guide for our discussion today. This model is fairly recent, in the last 5 years. It was developed after several years of research, and the model is just to represent what seems to what should be present in an online course for students and faculty to experience that social presence. And this isn't just the faculty having to be present for students. Eventually, this idea is a community-oriented idea, and students are present to each other. Students are present to the faculty. Faculty is present to the students. So we'll start with affective association. And affective association just addresses the emotional connections in the course. Okay, you know, humor, sarcasm, paralanguage. And paralanguage is just the way we communicate without words. Our facial expressions and our body language, even putting little emojis after our sentences when we're contacting a friend. And self-disclosure, this idea that we can tell stories about each other and we're on a more level playing field socially. When all these things are present, this emotional connection is being met. It's present. And so if you take a look at this picture, you can see how easy it is in a face-to-face environment to reach over the computer, show somebody something, show them how to do something, show them something interesting. They're all staring at the computer. You've got their attention. But, you know, this just doesn't happen that naturally in a face-to-face, in an online learning environment. So we have to create this connection. We have to create opportunities. And in this type of, in the affective association, we're really just trying to design things in the course that will bring these instances about. So strategies to address the emotional connections are going to be call students by their names, right? In class meetings, in emails, in feedback. It sounds simple, but it makes a huge difference. It's one way we can easily incorporate or enhance social presence. Spend more time creating our online course instructions than we normally do in class, okay? So think about when you're in a face-to-face class and you're handing out, a piece of paper. While you're handing it out, you're walking through the class, you're saying what you're handing out, you're saying why you're handing it out, you're explaining what the students are going to do with it, when they have to have it turned in, and where they're going to turn it in. These are all going on over a matter of seconds, and students usually feel pretty comfortable and can get right to work on it. But we can't do that in the online environment. So if you spend a little bit more time creating your online course instructions, like you're sitting there with your student and talking about that handout. You know, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. This is what you need to do. Just transfer that into your online description or instruction, and that will help build your presence there for your students. Check in with your students, both synchronously and asynchronously, or ask them to check in with you. I have one online course where I have a built-in check-in every 3 weeks. I have the same 6 questions I ask the students, and every 3 weeks they email me with answers to those questions, asking how they're doing, what they've learned, how they apply it, is it similar to anything else, just to get that check-in. It's so important, and I learn a lot in some of those comments. I learn a lot how things are going, how students are going, how they're doing with the course, and how they're doing just in everyday life. So try to incorporate some check-ins with your students. Think of using audio and video for answering student questions or providing feedback on an assignment. I remember one time I had an assignment, it included a lot of audio, and so the students were turning in audio files. So I decided to give them feedback in an all audio format. And they were all like, oh my gosh, we loved having audio feedback. They really liked it. So I had to sprinkle it in a little here and there. Often, if I'm demonstrating something and a student asks a question, I just take a quick screen recording and show them how to do it. Or if they can't find something, I make a quick screen recording and show them how I found it online. So consider doing that. It adds a certain amount of presence for your students. And really important, and you'll see this again and again, is give personalized feedback. Relevant and timely feedback. It not only enhances social presence, but it also enhances student self-efficacy in an online course. So relevant and timely feedback. All right, so what strategies are you most likely to use? The ones that I just went over. Calling students by name, giving detailed instructions, giving a prompt and relevant feedback.
And I just want to add, I re-added the link to the chat so that you can click on the link and respond to these questions.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Great, great. Yeah, that prompt and relevant feedback, that's just such a winner. And we'll see that a couple more times here in our discussion. So it's great, and these are easy things that you can incorporate really quickly, and that's kind of what we need right now, right? If we're transitioning over to online or blended format, some easy things that'll be helpful for us and our students. Do you have any other questions on any of these strategies we just talked about? I feel like I'm having all kinds of problems.
Well, what about or maybe this is still part of your presentation, but do some of those things, can you engage like students together to create social presence too, or is it?
Yes, and there is an element in this model that focuses like solely on community, and so it's a really good question. I pulled up on the screen. It looks like I'm getting better responses on the actual site. So it looks like a lot of people are going to be incorporating checking in with students and calling students by name. This calling students by name, you know, I hate to keep over inundating with stories, but I used to facilitate a very asynchronous online course for our one of our master's programs at Virginia Tech. And later, like the following semester, I met a student who I recognized his name. He was actually in that particular course. And he told me that it was his first semester there, and he's an international student. He felt very alone and very isolated. He said, but when I got my first feedback from you, you said Douglas, and then you started talking to me. He said, I felt so much more at ease, and it really made a huge impression on me on how important just that simple, I guess, habit, the simple habit of interacting with students. So if you don't have any more questions about the effective association, we'll go ahead and go on. And hopefully, Matt, this next section will answer some of those questions about community cohesion. Community cohesion, it represents the extent to which course participants see the group as a community, and that includes faculty members and students. So if you're doing research and you're measuring it, you're going to take a look at how students are treating each other, how they're greeting each other and signing off on their messages, or referring to each other as a community, or referencing each other by name, which of course you've been modeling, so they're going to do the same thing. So these items being present show the beginning of a community. And so some strategies we can do to build this sense of community. I can't express enough how important it is in an online course to begin building the community from the first day. I teach both face-to-face and online. And, in a face-to-face class, you can kind of just come in and meet with everybody and go over the syllabus. And actually, everybody expects to leave early. They don't expect to stay the full first day. But in that first day for the online, the students need to feel comfortable and confident very quickly. So you'll want to build into your course this like an orientation of the course and its structure and the resources that are going to be there to help them all along the way. So this is in the Canvas site, and helps that you put in the Canvas site in your syllabus. Students with accessibility issues, have those answers there for them. Have a shared resource page that they know they can always go to. And you'll want to allow your students to add resources to that page when they start feeling more comfortable, which is also a help to build the community. So this first couple of weeks, and actually I've seen research that says this usually doesn't occur until like maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, right? This start to feel comfortable and feeling like you know each other. But definitely focus your efforts the first couple of weeks, allowing the students to get to know you and get to know each other. Maybe assignments that include creating introductory videos, shared contact information, stories about their first university learning experience on a discussion forum. Just various ways you might have already been doing this in the classroom, and we just need to try to work it into your online. And it might be good to maybe not do all this in a synchronous meeting like we're having. Allow the students a little bit of time and freedom to create something that they can share with their classmates online. You'll want to model always personalized communication with students and encourage them to do the same with their peers. It's whatever you're going to do, however you deal with them, however you interact with them, they're likely to interact with their peers in the same way. And also encourage the use of netiquette. And netiquette is just, online etiquette. But sometimes we assume that people are really good with this when sometimes they're not, and they need some encouragement to interact better online than they currently are. And it just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of guidance. But if you include a section on netiquette in your class and direct them to it and go over it with them, maybe even have them, create a presentation about it, you're developing future positive connections in class. And then finally, this one, I can't tell if Ming is still here, but one of our students suggested this after our last semester's emergency remote teaching experience because of the COVID. And he suggested allowing students time at the beginning or the end of an online class meeting so that they can talk by themselves, because they're used to doing that in a face-to-face environment, getting the class early, chatting it up before the instructor gets there, or hanging around after the instructor leaves. And we weren't doing that. We were, Zoom meeting starts at 9, ends at 1. Well, I wasn't having any 3-hour Zoom meetings, I don't think. But it was such a great suggestion, and I want to bring this up because it was brought up in the context of community and where students can talk about what they just happened in class or plan for connecting on projects or socializing. So I really do like this strategy.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was such a great suggestion, and it's so simple, right? All of these things are so simple. We just don't often can't think of them all at the same time, right? Thanks, Ming.
You're welcome.
So this next question. Are there any other suggestions for community building in online and blended courses that you want to share? I brought up some that will help cultivate community building, and maybe you have some ideas as well. And while you're doing that, I'm going to look at the previous question. Living in the same cluster. Not sure I understand that question. Short bios, that's really nice. And actually I've seen short bios come up a couple times in the literature that for actually any grade level from K-12 all the way up through university, people posting their bio so that when people are discussing things online, they know who they're talking to or familiar with their background. A picture too is recommended so that there's a face that they can get to know. And I imagine this would be for asynchronous or synchronous or blended courses. It's just different having a mostly online relationship. So thank you for that. Absolutely, short bios will be a strong addition. The next section is instructor involvement. And this refers to the extent to which the instructor is an invested, active partner in the learning community. This might take people away from how they might be used to teaching in a face-to-face class. If you're, heavily lecture-based, or you have the idea that you're delivering information to students, and this idea of being an active partner may not make complete sense, or later we'll talk about facilitation. These are just practices that you want to start incorporating into your online community building, online course building, online instruction. So it's something to work towards, not something that you snap your fingers and you'll just be doing it. So some of the strategies for instructor involvement, I can't stress enough, these student-student interactions, they're essential at the beginning especially, but you need to facilitate those, right? We need to bring students together. It's not always a natural occurrence. So we have to create these environments where there is student-student interaction, and it's purposeful. It's part of the learning goals, the objectives, the assessment. Remember Dr. Ofori's discussion a couple of weeks ago on alignment. You're going to create these interactions, but they're part of your course plan. Early and formative feedback helps students quickly understand their progress and understand that you're there. And so this is about presence. And so this is one quick way that you can do that. When you're given that amazing feedback, you're also encouraging your students to engage in critical analysis, right? At the beginning, maybe they're looking at surface, but through your feedback and through your engagement with what they submit to you, whatever course it is, whatever assignments they're doing, you're going to be the one encouraging them towards a deeper critical analysis, higher order thinking, problem solving. It will be through your questioning and your feedback. And if you aren't engaged, then you can see how that might not naturally occur with the student. And you're going to create opportunities for students to collaborate, peer review, discuss, problem solve. I know your program, from what I've read, is very community-based, community-oriented. And this idea of collaboration is something that your students are going to have to take with them and be part of their professional lives. So, you know, being able to collaborate well, review peers professionally, have discussions, solve problems together, that's a skill set that your students are going to need to take with them, and also practice for the time that they're in your school. And you facilitate that, you bring it about, you create those practice opportunities, and those help create presence in your class. So what is your number one strategy for instructor interaction in your face-to-face courses? In your face-to-face courses, what's your go-to where you're like, I feel like I'm interactive? Anybody have a favorite?
Just to reiterate, the link to that is in the chat if you'd like to respond to that question.
Thanks, Matt.
I noticed that if people show up, the prior chat doesn't show up for them, so it has to be re-added anyway.
So it's kind of a pain in the behind for the
no problem.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for facilitating that, Matt. So the number one strategy I'm seeing right now, calling students by name, absolutely, you are interacting with them. And that's a good example. It's a really good example. And it's probably one of the easiest things we can do in a face-to-face environment and in online environment. You know, when you're giving feedback, you know, Sharon, you know, I really liked what you did here, or thank you for submitting this, you know, et cetera, you know, Jim, you know, just these names, it helps people feel like they're, you know, they're not being dismissed or ignored. So I really like that. I'm glad that if you had to pick one, that's a good one, and that's an easy one you can bring to an online environment. Thank you. So we've got the interaction intensity. This one at first I was like, what? It sounds pretty bizarre, but really it's just the level of interaction among participants. So if we're researching or studying whether there's social presence in a course, yes, you could be completing the discussion forums, or you could be, you know, calling your classmates by name. That could be happening, but it doesn't mean that there's much depth to it. If you're just staying on the surface, then it's not really the type of interaction we're striving for. You understand in the beginning processes, these might stay shallow, but you want over the course of time for these to become deeper and deeper. And how will students know if they're not going deep enough unless you let them know? You've got to be involved in that process so that you start getting some real good interactions in the community. So when you're giving constructive feedback, use quotes from the students, right? Use quotes from their response to let them know you've read their work. And this will also model how students should interact with each other. So if somebody submits a discussion, I might pull out a real sharp sentence and just say, you know, Alice, you explained this so well, and then put that quote right there, you know, so that she knows what you think she did well, and it gives her an idea that she's hitting the mark, and it gives her an idea on what she can do the next time, and it helps her to think of how she wants to deal when you're asking students to discuss other things with their peers. It gives them some ideas on what they can use when they interact with them. Incorporate the use of collaborative tools. If it's appropriate and you've designed some collaborative projects in your course, go ahead and use some collaborative tools, Google Docs, and annotation tools like Hypothesis, and social learning like Flipgrid. It's a fun tool where everything's done via video. You can post a video clip and your response can be a video clip, and it's just in a central location, which makes it easy for people. To facilitate student interactions with content and with each other. Remember, you're the one that's bringing all this about. The students are going to have to participate, and they have to you know, start taking the reins, but you get you grease the wheel a little bit so that it rolls a little bit more naturally. And also encourage students to interact with each other's discussion board responses, shared assignments, online meeting, breakout groups, you know, by giving each other credit and referring to each other as they build their discussion. You don't want somebody to just blurt out, I disagree. You might want to, you know, show them, you know, Dawn, I totally see where you're going with this. There's a couple of things I disagree with. Like, you're going to be modeling how to agree and disagree, how to address each other, and that's ongoing. And so I wouldn't just allow the students, oh, well, you know, they'll be able to, I know some of them have been professionals and out in the field for a long time. It doesn't mean that they have experience in an online learning environment. So you'll want to coach people. So when in this semester would you expect to see this interaction intensity pick up? Right from the start to about halfway through, close to the end? So yeah, depending on how long a student's been an online learner or how long they've been in taking online courses, they could start off with a bang, but I wouldn't be disappointed if you don't see it till around the middle, after the first few weeks. They don't have to be a freshman in undergrad to not know how to use online communication tools well. I might scaffold students into deeper and deeper expectations, deeper discussion, you know. Yes, if you start noticing these things right from the start, you'll want to give some positive feedback and encourage it to continue and help students build on that. But don't freak out if you don't start seeing some of this intense interaction, you know, till a little deeper into the course. Thank you for responding. And the last topic is knowledge and experience. Okay, when we capitalize on our students' knowledge and experience, they feel more connected to the class and more connected to their peers and to you. It can encourage their engagement and actually increase that interactive intensity that we were talking about. So some strategies to capitalize on our students' prior knowledge and experiences is to create opportunities for them to lead discussions in and out of class where they can draw on their experiences and share them. They've obviously come to add more experiences and more knowledge to their life, but they should be able to demonstrate in various ways that they have some experiences to offer, and all of the community can learn from them. So if you could give them opportunities to do that, that would be great. You'll want to build in time before your instruction for students to activate this prior knowledge. Okay, they want to think about, you want them to think about what they already know about the topic, what they already have experienced. And this kind of prepares the mind for learning. And it could be a good time for you to find out if that knowledge is good knowledge or not. I mean, you could do some small questions and answers at the beginning of an online discussion, using Mentimeter or something like that, just to see where this background knowledge is too, because sometimes students' prior knowledge is great, and sometimes it's a little off, and then their new knowledge gets attached to the off information. So giving students time to activate that prior knowledge, and you facilitating that will be really important for their learning. And then also build in some time after the instruction for students to reflect on learning. Reflection is where a lot of learning occurs. When you think about the topic, you think about how it applies to you and how you can apply it in various situations. That's where some of that stickiness of knowledge occurs during the reflection process. So build in those times, okay? Build in the opportunities for students to reflect. I usually drive my students crazy by having them do blog posts, but it helps me and it helps them. I can see growth over the course of the semester. They have a collection of their learning experiences. Sometimes I ask them to reflect on their learning. Sometimes I ask them to reflect on their process. These will all be beneficial to them, but it's also beneficial to me to see if the type of learning that I want to take place is occurring. And I can't just see that if I ask them to do a paper. So that's a real good one, to figure out different ways to incorporate opportunities for that. For reflection. All right, this might be. Are there any specific questions about capitalizing on students' prior knowledge and experiences? Well, we'll see if any come up. Thank you, thank you. So here we are. So we've taken a look at social presence through the social presence model, and we've talked a little bit about some possible strategies to incorporate the idea of cultivating social presence in your online courses and your online program. So how do you get started? This is real simple. You practice. You just practice incorporating opportunities to build social presence into your course. Experiment and let students know you're experimenting. Like I did. I'm going, hey, I've never used this Mentimeter with the PowerPoint presentation before, I'd like to give it a try. If this was a class, I'd stop maybe 5 minutes early and ask students, hey, what was your experience with it? How should I do it different next time? I don't just give up right away. I try to interact with students on what's working and what's not. We're all learning in this community. Ask your students for feedback all the time. All the time. We learn a lot about how we're doing, how the course is doing, how they're doing by just asking for that feedback or providing opportunities where we can get some formative feedback. And don't try everything all at once. I've got a gazillion strategies here. Just experiment with them a little at a time and try to eventually incorporate a good balance of social presence, cultivating tactics into your online courses. Any final questions?
What about, I'm thinking about asynchronous courses. Can you recommend a couple of things that have helped for you in the past with
Yes. For asynchronous courses, I do a orientation. So there is a time when we actually meet at the same place in the same time. It's really, in the one course that I teach, it's the only time we do that because I've got students scattered around. But we do meet for that orientation. It's over a couple of day period. But they get oriented to that, to Canvas, to where the things are, where they can find things. And believe it or not, this might freak out some people. I give my asynchronous students my phone number for text messages. It's not as crazy as it seems. I would much rather get a text that I can answer in 10 seconds than have it be added to the multiple streams of emails that I get. And this has been very successful for me for the asynchronous class to allow for emails, Canvas messaging, or text messaging. Also, as I mentioned before, I have a built-in check-in every 3 weeks. I ask the same 6 questions of my students, and they email me their responses, and it kind of gives me a pulse in addition to their forum posts and their assignments. This is it's a different type of communication. I build in opportunities for students in the asynchronous course who don't know each other to interact with some casual discussions. Also sharing, I have them all create an introduction to themselves in whatever medium they want and post it in the discussion forum. And I ask students to look over about a third of them, over the coming week and more if they want to. But so these are just incorporated into the course. I do a lot of tutorials with me, showing students how to do things. I sometimes introduce assignments with audio recordings. Just like, hey, I've got you reading chapter 3, and I tell them why it's important, what I hope they get out of it, that kind of thing. Any opportunity I can to be present. Did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you very much. I'm going to provide Matt with a copy of the PowerPoint, and I think he recorded this, and so that you can maybe take a peek at some of the strategies and try to incorporate them. They're not just feel-good stuff. It actually affects students' learning and their motivation and their desire to push forward in the course. So even though it looks like feel-good stuff, it is feel-good stuff, but it actually affects students' learning. So we want to try to incorporate these practices into any of our online interactions. Thank you for being here, and thanks, Matt, for having me.
Thank you so much. I really think this is a fascinating topic. Just to me, it's just about humanizing technology. And I think I think I like a lot of the ideas that you explained today. I think they'll be very helpful. In sort of making the space more of a human space and less just about the technology. I can remember the first time 20 years ago building an online course and just putting a PDF file on a website, and just how horrible that was, and now you can actually interact some and, be like people together, in this space. And I think it makes a huge difference, these ideas. So I really appreciate.
I agree. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I hope everybody has a successful fall semester. We know here at Virginia Tech, it's going to be interesting. We got students coming back on campus, so we'll see how it goes.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm staying at home. It's good to see everybody. Take care.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. This is brilliant.
Bye. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Alicia, and greetings from Kampala.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Greetings from Christiansburg. Wonderful. Take care. I'll give Matt my email to contact me if you ever have a great idea or if you want some to talk about anything. That would be great. Take care. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.